Hello. We are now at one of the favorite parts of the program for me, the Global Leadership Awards. The USIBC Global Leadership Award was established as a means to recognize not just excellence in corporate leadership, but also a commitment to advancing the US-India corridor. Past recipients have included Jeff Bezos, Mukesh Ambani, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, Indra Nooyi, Sundar Pichai, Adina Friedman, to name just a few. To present this year's awards, I am pleased to introduce Tom Donohue, CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, who will present the first award, and then Tom Bartlett, CEO of American Tower Corporation, for the second award. And I particularly want to thank UPS and FedEx, who went the extra mile, or in this case, closer to the extra 10,000 miles, to make sure that our recipients today would have their award in time for today's event. So now, over to you, Tom Donohue.
I too will wait to see my picture. There we go. Thank you very much. I think I'm supposed to wait till it goes all the way up. All right, now we're in business. I'm sure you've all enjoyed the program up to today through yesterday. We're really getting a look at the vibrancy of the U.S.-India trade and economic relationship. It has been on full display, and we're now going to recognize a number of people who have helped make that happen. That relationship would not be what it is today without champions in the private sector. Champions like Chandra, co-chair of the US-India CEO Forum and chairman of Tata and Sons. Chandra has spent his entire career at Tata playing a key role in the company's growth and leading its expansion into the United States and the rest of America. Of course, you all know that Tata has been a strong US partner for over a century. As of today, Tata employs 35,000 people in the United States and is helping foster America's future workforce, most notably through relationships with top US institutions like the Carnegie Mellon and Cornell universities. Tata operates across 10 sectors through 12 companies in more than 20 states across the country, and it is significantly invested in local communities. Tata's diverse US operations include steel plating facilities in Ohio and Pennsylvania, luxury hotels in major urban centers, auto engineering and design in Michigan, and thanks in no small part to Chandra himself, IT services and networks of digital infrastructure all over the country. Prior to serving as chairman of Tata and Sons, Chandra rose through the ranks of Tata Consulting Services, or TCS, and was appointed CEO in 2009. An innovative leader in technology, with an entrepreneurial spirit, he positioned TCS as a global force in the digital economy. One second. Under his leadership, TCS became the largest private sector employer in India and the most valuable company in the country. He also has been instrumental in establishing a prominent footprint for TCS in the United States. He spent a number of years living in Washington, D.C., and personally advanced this bilateral relationship. Today, as chairman of Tata, he brings this tremendous experience to the entire portfolio of Tata Sons companies. In addition to his career at Tata, Chandra was named director of the board of India's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, in 2016. He has also served as the chairperson of the Information and Communications Technology Industry Governors at the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2015 and 16. And as I mentioned in the beginning, he holds a vital leadership role in the US-India CEO Forum. His hard work, his leadership, and innovation have enriched both our economies and strengthened the bond between our countries. Today, to recognize his many years of contributions to a strong and growing US-India relationship, it is our privilege to present him the USIBC's Global Leadership Award. Chandra, please accept this with our deep gratitude and our best wishes and our thanks to UPS and Federal Express working together to get it to you. We look forward to continue our work with you and your company in the years to come, and we look forward to getting together personally as soon as we're able to free ourselves up from this pandemic. And thank you very much. There it is.
Thank you, Tom, for the generous introduction. I am truly honored to accept the USIBC's 2020 Global Corporate Leadership Award, and I am particularly pleased to do so alongside my friend and colleague, Jim Taiclet, with whom I've enjoyed collaborating on a number of areas that are relevant to the overall US-India commercial and strategic partnership. To receive an award for leadership is always a humbling experience at any time. But the past several months have been a particularly unprecedented test for everyone and all leaders. And if I may say so, there are many others who are deserving this award today. In that spirit, I would like to commend the executive team and the board of the USIBC and the US Chamber of Commerce, who have demonstrated remarkable leadership this year by developing new ways of thinking and working together while continuing to advance the priorities of their stakeholders, regardless of the fast-changing circumstances. The ongoing health and economic crisis continues to be highly fluid and uncertain, affecting the very fundamentals of the world around us. We at the Tata Group are extremely proud of our many Tata associates who have been on the front lines as essential workers during this time. Our teams are also assisting as a part of a broad, coordinated response involving right from distribution of food to manufacturing ventilators, diagnostic kits, developing testing protocols, providing immediate digital health care solutions, and also providing additional healthcare and hospital facilities. The world that emerges from this crisis will be unmistakably different. Digital approaches in everything from retail and education to healthcare consultations will become even more mainstream. People may travel less and assess risk differently. We will see a sharper focus on healthcare systems as national assets, as well as more health and safety features incorporated into product design. Trust will become more important than ever. India, alongside the US and other countries, can use this crucial moment to design the fourth industrial revolution technologies, the cloud, AI and machine learning, and so on, in new ways so that people can access services on the one hand and at the same time create millions of jobs for people who can act as digital intermediaries, or as I call them, as digital workers. It is possible, if you do the work now, of ambitiously designing for the future rather than simply reacting and responding to the pandemic. I look forward to working with all of you to turn the aspirational theme of today's summit, building a better future, into a reality for both and the United States of America. Thank you all very much for listening.
Well, thank you, Nisha, for that kind introduction, and congratulations on the USIBC's 45th anniversary. And I'd also like to thank Tom Donohue for hosting this event, and a special congratulations to Chandra for his leadership award. You've been a great partner to American Tower. So on behalf of the USIBC, it is a great honor and privilege to present the USIBC Global Leadership Award to Jim Taiclet, CEO of Lockheed Martin and the U.S. Chairman of the U.S.-India CEO Forum. Jim and Chandra are being recognized today for their dedication to leadership of and exemplary collaboration in their work as co-chairs of the forum. With the appreciation of the USIBC and its members, and our thanks and congratulations from American Tower for an incredibly job well done. I'm honored to be here and present this award to you, Jim. You know, during most of this time co-chairing the forum, I've had the privilege to really have a kind of a first seat unwavering, to see Jim's unwavering commitment to the U.S.-India relationship. It's just until early this year, Jim served as the CEO of American Tower, and I was the CFO. So I've seen firsthand this dedication over the most recent years. You know, when Secretary Ross asked Jim to serve as the U.S. chairman, Jim embraced this opportunity, you know, as was stated by the governments, to provide recommendations reflecting the private sector views and needs, concerns, and suggestions to create an environment in which the U.S. and India could partner, thrive, and enhance bilateral commercial ties to expand the trade and economic links. Additionally, he and Chandra decided to not just meet that requirement, but exceed that goal. They've always been positive and focused on what could be done to help both interests, while always being sensitive to the domestic imperative in both countries of creating jobs. They challenged each of the 40 CEOs, forum members, with two specific goals. First, to find opportunities for growth that could be explored together. And second, to identify what the private sector needs to do in parallel to the actions and governments that our governments need to take. So let me underscore that second point. Instead of simply going to each government with a list of items that needed to be changed, the CEO Forum found things that could be done immediately to further the economic ties between our two great countries. For example, in 5 cities in India, they held government-to-government best practice workshops to promote connectivity, to government best practice workshops all over the country. Think about it, just about how important those learnings are today as we all participate in this Ideas Summit remotely. In addition, they supplied the governments with best practices for manufacturing. And the pandemic hasn't stopped their work. In fact, when the pandemic struck, Jim instructed his team to keep the dialogue going between the countries and industries in both India and in the United States. That resulted in a series of conversations between Indian and U.S. companies, as well as both governments, that has helped ensure essential services are provided to citizens in both countries. In fact, the forum had a dialogue with the joint governments just last week. I look forward to hearing more about that today. And finally, the CEO Forum works closely with the U.S.-India Business Council, whose ongoing work remains critical to building the relationship between the United States and India, especially in these times, furthering an objective whose importance cannot be understated. So, Jim, I'm proud to present you, my friend, with this USIBC Global Leadership Award. You're one of the global leaders who early on recognized the elevated importance of the U.S.-India relationship, investing not only through the companies you have led, but also through your personal passion and commitment. Congratulations, Jim.
Thank you, Tom, for the introduction and for our partnership over the last 10 years at American Tower. It's been truly fulfilling and a friendship that I know will last.
Absolutely.
And also thank you to the U.S.-India Business Council for this tremendous honor. This year, we celebrate a significant milestone for the organization. 2020 is the 45th anniversary of the founding of USIBC. And since 1975, USIBC has served to strengthen the relationship between the United States and India. In that time, the work of this organization has created connections and advocated for policies that have driven progress for our nations and for the world. And that's why I'm honored to be part of the USIBC and to accept this year's Global Leadership Award. I do wish we were together face-to-face for the 2020 India Ideas Summit. But since we're holding this year's event virtually, as we've discussed, the USIBC was kind enough to send Chandra and I our awards in advance. It's been such an honor to achieve this award alongside my friend Chandra, chairman of the board of Tata Group, an industry partner in increasing connectivity in India, and my colleague in taking the US-India CEO Forum into the future. Now, in recent years, the threats that peaceful nations face have been evolving at an unprecedented rate, and that includes India and the United States, the two largest democracies in the world. In this acceleration in threats, combined with the economic challenges brought on by the global pandemic, present the most difficult security environment our world has seen in decades. And at Lockheed Martin, we're honored to do our part to support India and invest in the country's economy, security, and education during these times. For more than 30 years, our company has served as a trusted partner to India's defense and aerospace sector. In fact, our joint venture with Tata Advanced Systems in Hyderabad represents some of India's largest integrated parts manufacturing capabilities throughout the entire private sector in the country. Workers in Hyderabad produce major components for every C-130J aircraft built today, as well as components for the S-92 helicopter. These workers in India are directly supporting innovative technologies that help make the country's armed forces stronger. We're proud to provide these and other vital capabilities that ensure citizens of India are safe and secure every day. And programs like the new MH-60R multi-role helicopter and someday the F-21 fighter will ensure that the Indian armed forces stay ahead of evolving threats against their country for decades to come. Our partnership doesn't end with our economic and security investments, though. We're also working and investing in the future of India through educational efforts that aim to develop the country's workforce that we'll need in the future. And through our partnership with Tata, we offer apprenticeships and on-the-job training that advance opportunities for India's young workforce. Our India Women's Apprenticeship Program reaches out to women in underdeveloped regions and gives them opportunities to join the aerospace manufacturing workforce and have good jobs for their careers. And for 14 years in partnership with Tata Trust and India's Department of Science and Technology, our India Innovation and Growth Program has supported Indian innovators and entrepreneurs who've actually gone on to generate nearly $1 billion in revenues collectively. These stories are just some of the examples that illustrate the partnership between the US and India, which I personally believe are natural economic and strategic allies. I'm very proud to be part of the US-India Business Council as we work together to create jobs and drive economic growth for both of our nations. And I'm honored to stand with so many of you who are committed to maintaining and growing a relationship in the years to come. And I can commit that Chandra and I are going to continue to work together to do that. And all together, we can help build a better future for India, for the United States, and for the world. Thank you all very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for joining us here on this very special edition of the US-India Business Council's India Ideas Summit. Congratulations to Jim Taiclet as well as N. Chandrasekaran, both co-recipients of the USIBC Global Corporate Leadership Award. Congratulations to the two of you. And gentlemen, you're co-recipients of this award this evening, you're co-chairs of the US-India CEO Forum, and you're joint venture partners in the defense business back in India. So there's lots to talk to both of you about. We've heard through this evening from Secretary Pompeo, from the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, from the two ambassadors Ken Juster and Taranjeet Sandhu. So let me start by asking you, Chandra, about the outcome of the CEO Forum, the fifth meeting of the India-US CEO Forum. Now, both sides have tried to address some of those long pending issues. Both sides have charted out a roadmap for future reforms. Where do things currently stand in order of priority? What is it that India would like the US to move further on and faster with?
Thank you, Shereen. Good morning and good evening to all of you. I think we had a wonderful summit 10 days ago. It's one of the summits where both sides came together and identified the unique opportunity that we have between us at an inflection point. While both are fantastic democracies and we work together very well, fundamentally the people relationships on both sides is very, very strong. There are always issues when two nations work together on policy matters. The most important thing that came out of the summit was we've got to have a much, much bigger ambition. The pandemic poses challenges, but presents a number of opportunities. From the India side, I think there are two or three things. I wouldn't even say that it's the India side, US side. I think because these priorities were very much endorsed by both parties. First, the global supply chain is getting redesigned, redefined, because supply chain has always been created for efficiency. Now the recent incidents, both the pandemic, the geopolitical situation, trade issues, have stressed the importance of having a supply chain that is rebalanced, resilient, and not only efficient. And India can be a very important partner to the United States and companies in the US to play a significant role in that supply chain. So we've got to work on policies, work on all the aspects that go with it. The second one, we have been talking about some kind of a trade deal. I think both sides agreed that we have got to conclude the current discussions with a limited trade deal and start to work on a full version, an FTA, so that we can get that done in the coming years. And the third one is India has a very large human capital and we have lots and lots of skills. And India would like a free access to the services markets in the United States because of the expertise that we can bring to bear. And these are the three top priorities. And there are priorities that came up from the US side, which was also equally important. But I will not go into that because I'm sure you're going to ask Jim about that.
Yes, I certainly will. And I'll come back to you on the three issues that you raised, Chandra. But Jim, let me get you to comment on what we just
May I
heard.
say three opportunities instead of three issues?
Three opportunities. Perfect. We'll go with three opportunities. So, Jim, let me pick up on what Chandra just left us with and put this in the context of what we've also just heard from Ambassador Juster, the US ambassador to India. Ambassador Juster saying that we need a predictable regulatory environment in India, need a lighter touch on regulation, cannot micromanage economic growth. In the context of what you see as opportunities Chandra is talking about rebalancing of the supply chain. What is it that the US would like India to specifically do? Which are the specific pain points that you would like India to address on a priority basis?
Sure, I'd be happy to address that, but I'd like to start with partnering with my friend Chandra to say what we're really all about in the U.S.-India CEO Forum is to do two things: increase net economic activity in both countries and to increase net jobs in both countries. In a way that implies that we'll be taking economic opportunity from other parts of the world and working together to bring them to India and the U.S., and also that we'll be seeking to resource, as Chandra pointed out, manufacturing operations, supply chain, and thereby jobs from other parts of the world to the United States and India. So that's the real backdrop for this. And I do believe that both governments are very interested in both of those topics: increased economic activity and increased jobs. So with that backdrop, there were a handful of recommendations that we provided to the Indian government, to Minister Goyal last week. And they really are mostly around the opportunity to invest more U.S. capital in India to create those supply chains, to create those jobs, and increase economic activity there that will also benefit workers and citizens of the United States. So those 5 things are: the first one is to allow majority ownership of businesses in as many industries as possible in India from foreign companies, especially those from the United States. And there's been a lot of progress on that already, frankly. And in the defense sector, we're up to 74%, which makes it more inviting and more confident for our boards of directors to authorize those capital investments. So that's one area, is increasing that majority ownership option. The second is to, as Ambassador Juster said, and we work together closely on this, to enhance the stability and predictability of key policies, including tax law. There have been some changes over the past 10 years that have felt fairly abrupt to Western investors. We've all addressed those and recovered, but it does give pause to your board of directors and your executive team when you have a shifting regulatory environment, as the ambassador noted. And right along with that is to continue legal reforms in India to get faster adjudication when there are disputes between either companies or the government and companies, to speed up the timelines of litigation. There was a bankruptcy law that helped, confirm how business wrap-ups and reorganizations could operate in the country. So these are the kinds of things that India is embarking on, just needs to continue. Fourth is really confirming the protection of intellectual property, to make sure that when companies bring their IP over to stand up an operation or a manufacturing line in India, that they'll be able to retain that intellectual property as a company asset and not necessarily have to give it up. And lastly, and this is really an India government and industry initiative, would be to continue to build on the infrastructure in the country so that the supply chains can move over and be effective. So infrastructure includes digital infrastructure, which American Tower and Tata and other firms are working on in the country together. It also includes roads, ports, airports, etc. And the more investment that comes into that infrastructure, the less and lower cost and higher speeds that manufacturing and other operations will have, again, more attractive for foreign investment. So those are 4 or 5 ideas that we've offered to the Indian government as late as last week. Again, so we'll stop there and take your questions. But there's a lot of alignment between Chandra's team and mine and the CEO group along these lines.
Well, that's good to hear. So 3 opportunities from Chandra and 5 ideas from Jim. So we're off to a good start, gentlemen. Chandra, let me address the trade issue with you. And the External Affairs Minister this evening at the summit, saying very clearly that India and the US need to look beyond trade issues, and they need to get these trade issues resolved as quickly as possible and not limit this relationship merely to the trade issues. Do you feel hopeful of being able to get this limited trade deal? Of course, the aspiration and the hope is for an FTA, but do you feel hopeful that we are going to see this limited trade deal get done ahead of the US elections?
First of all, it's not appropriate for me to set a deadline saying that it will be done before the US elections.
I'm asking you for your estimate.
I think it's possible. if both sides work together, because we are talking about getting something done, rather fall forward. We're not trying to solve all issues. We will never have a situation where there is no pending issue. When two countries at this level try to operate, there will always be issues. So I think we can get something done quickly. And going back to what I said earlier, I think the important thing to recognize is United States is a very, very, very large economy. India is becoming a very sizable economy with huge potential. And what we can do if we put an aspiration together is just can be really something very special. We are talking about jobs, and if you are able to work on the supply chain, get certain industries, whether it is electronics, whether it's healthcare, advanced manufacturing, medical devices, telecom. I think you look at many of these industries, if you get into really helping each other out, and what will happen is we will create some very high quality jobs, and we will start creating ecosystems. These ecosystems will spur a lot of innovation, a lot of small scale industries, and a lot of direct and indirect jobs. I think the potential is very high if we start to look at what is possible, what's the art of possible, without getting stuck on one particular issue. There will always be one issue or the other, which will always boil. And we need to address that, but that should not stop us from aspiring to create something special.
Well, we're hoping that something special fructifies soon. But Jim, you're no stranger to Make in India. You've got a joint venture with the Tatas at industrial base in Hyderabad. You're hoping that you'll be able to do the F-21 as and when the Indian government decides to go forward with any procurement. But the ecosystem effect that Chandra was talking about, Make in India, making that much more robust. We've got a production-linked incentive scheme being announced by the government for medical devices, for electronics today, for pharmaceuticals as well. Is that going to be enough to draw in foreign direct investment from the US?
Well, these are steps definitely in the right direction. And I can give you some facts on our Tata partnerships and some of the contributions that we've made, just one company. So just in the past 10 years, our joint ventures between Lockheed Martin and Tata, we've contributed about $100 million of manufacturing equipment, tooling, IP, et cetera, to help create that defense ecosystem in the country. We've actually produced more than $200 million US in private Indian industry revenues in country already. And also we've trained and upskilled more than 1,500 people in skills like aerospace engineering, manufacturing, and even management. So when you add that in with the $600 million of exports from India to other countries of aerospace structures and other assemblies that have been produced in the joint venture, you start to create, as you said, an ecosystem, Chandra, that now can build upon that. So we're looking as a company, again, this is just one company, and there's many other manufacturing companies like Caterpillar looking to do some of the same things, to continue to expand along all of those lines: training, employment, exports, the import of equipment, et cetera. So in 2018, we announced plans to build wings for the F-16 fighter fleet in India. So even though the country doesn't have any F-16s or F-21s flying yet, we made the advanced decision to go ahead and put part of our wing construction operation in the country, because again, the ecosystem was starting to build, the talent was there, and the government had arranged for attractive conditions for us to make that investment. And we're going to work through the qualifications of the site and get all the engineering and inspections done. But at that point, fighter wings for all the future customers that buy the F-16, in addition to the F-21, the wings are going to come from India. And that's the most advanced fourth generation fighter that's on the market right now. And India is going to be the place where we build those wing assemblies. That's just, again, one example of how you build the ecosystem that Chandra was referring to.
Well, we hope that much more of that is going to happen. I'm going to give both of you a final minute each. Chandra, let me start by asking you the three areas or the three sectors. I'm getting a wrap up, so 30 seconds, Chandra and Jim. The three sectors that you believe are ripe for more momentum, more partnership. Chandra.
Definitely electronics, pharmaceuticals, and healthcare, and maybe medical devices.
Okay, that's for Jim.
Agriculture
Agriculture
also.
as well. Agriculture as well. Jim?
Yeah, I would say defense in a broad scope. Two sub pieces to that. One you might not think of is primary minerals, so aluminum and other kinds of core metals and even special metals and other inputs, raw material inputs that go into the defense sector. And along with that, electronics and microelectronics assembly and manufacturing within the sector. And I would also have to emphasize the telecommunications and digital infrastructure, which is another area that Tata and American Tower I know are still working on at the moment. So those are the places I would highlight.
Well, gentlemen, we could have continued this conversation, but unfortunately we're right out of time. But Jim and Chandra, congratulations once again on the awards, and many thanks for joining us here at the India Ideas Summit. Let's hope that we build on the momentum that's already been generated. Thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome, Shereen. Thank you.